Oh my goodness. Okay, let me breathe on this one. Hey, everybody. Men Cry in the Car. First of all, this is our second season. I've been gone for a little bit, but I am back. May of this year made it 1 year of Men Cry in the Car, and I'm very excited about that. I'm overjoyed about that. And also, I needed to take a little break. But all the stories that were coming in, all the emotions, all the feelings, I was just like, you know what? Take care of yourself. But now we're back, and we are bringing back a guest that has been here before. He is my brother from another mother. He's a mental health advocate. Like he's all the things, but also I want him to reintroduce himself. Now, get your tissues, get your Kleenex, get your comfy blanket, your socks, whatever you need to self soothe, because this conversation, we are going all in. Just trigger warning, just letting you know, okay? But I want to bring on Mr. Charles Harper.
You introduce me like I'm Tyler Perry or somebody finna come out and and woo the crowd
First of all, sir,
with a
we're not
Medea
even
story like no other.
we are not going to even compare ourselves to that. But what we are going to do is understand that you are great.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
you
you.
are Charles Harper. You don't have to be Tyler Perry. Hey, Tamina, you don't have to be that. You are who you
Yeah.
are, and you're wonderful in my eyes, and you're magnificent, and you are powerful.
Oh, thank you. Thank
So,
you.
and I want the people to know. Now, you have been here before, but those that haven't
Yeah.
seen you or haven't heard your story, just introduce yourself to them.
Okay. So my name is Charles Harper. I'm an author of four previous books. This is the fifth. Started out writing about Freemasonry. I entered Freemasonry, which is a fraternal organization, the oldest in the world, really. Um, I entered it in 2004, and because I identify as black, but I have a black father and a white mother, I started to really endure, like struggle with understanding why there was a racial component in the fraternity, which it's not supposed to exist, and that literally led me on this path of trying to understand me and my role in life. And so these books that I put out, Freemasonry in Black and White, um, uh, 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 I'm sorry, Screaming into the Light. I had a BPD activated episode, so my memory is a little foggy. Screaming into the Light and other books. These were books as a result of this self discovery, because I had to go inward to, I guess, to try to understand what I was seeing outward. And so, and then when you combine some of the life experiences, which a lot of people have gone through, like I started out in construction after the Navy. I severely injured my back, broke my back, went back to college, and I've been in college, I think, for about 14 years now, doing attempting several doctorates even. And so I'm at this place now where, after Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, my fraternity, my frat, recognized me of being outspoken and just being vulnerable, just being authentic, not there are a lot of people out here selling mental health, and they're on TikTok and they're saying, "Hey, I have borderline personality disorder," and they make it like this romantic thing to get all these followers. So I think I'm finding my voice as an advocate to say, especially as a black man, who has gone through so much trauma and has caused, as a lack of being aware of it,
Mhm.
trying to be manly, trying to, as my therapist, Dan would say, white knuckle it, um, out here finally saying, no, we don't have to do all that. We don't we don't have to fight to maintain an image that the social construct created for us to feel,
Yeah.
so that we could fill this role in this construct and be what everybody needs us to be.
Hmm.
My name is Charles.
Hmm.
I'm not a football player. I'm not a aggressive drug dealer. I'm not a professor at Harvard. I'm not any of that. you know I'm just Charles. And I don't have to identify as male to be seen. I don't have to identify as academic to be seen. You know, this whole construct forces us into these roles to then be seen. And so now I'm on this journey of showing everybody else and myself, most importantly, that I don't have to identify with any of these roles in order to be Charles.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at now. You know, and this book is, you know, a lot of people write books after their journey, like, hey, this is what happened, this is what I went through. I said, forget all that. I started writing this book after I attempted to take my life in 2018. And I thought that the work that I had done, you know, identifying what created my traumas, you know, what produced depression, what produced anxiety. And I thought I was like in this great state of healing, but I wasn't. It was like a pause. And why I had to write this book was this pause is, like they said, from the middle. Like
Mm-hmm.
I found out about this when I was 23. And what happens as a black man exiting the Navy is that you get this mental health diagnosis. And it's like, I can't bring this home
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going to be Uncle Leroy up in the attic with the broken fan at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Who's going to want me? Who's going to want me? What job can I have? Even now in this interview, writing this book, I tell you, I'm scared to death
Mm-hmm.
that my teaching job is going to be taken from me. That if I wanted to go back into corporate, nobody will ever hire me. You know, my wife has convinced me that I'm this great executive leadership coach and friends and stuff. And on one hand, I'm like, man, you know, I've already done the DEI. I can kill this. I can do great. And on the other hand, it's like, what if somebody found out that I have borderline personality disorder? And and now, rather than understand what it is and that, hey, it really doesn't show up in the workplace. It shows up at home when you're vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
But because of their ignorance and the stigma,
Mm-hmm.
I have to limit myself, well, I feel like
Okay.
I have to limit my aspirations because people will not see me through my authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I wrote this book from the middle, because I'm still figuring this out.
Yeah.
Still figuring out.
So
So
I want to just congratulate you um, for writing a book, and we're definitely going to be talking about that and everything. But this is what I want to say to you. First of all, everybody, I have my Kleenex because I already know like what this is going to be about. Vulnerability to me is like the most powerful thing that we can do. You know, to be transparent, to be vulnerable, simply because like in society we feel like if we are vulnerable, then it's going to be considered as weak. Like, oh my God, you're telling people that you're not
it'll be
okay,
used
or
against
you're
us.
saying this, you're saying it, or use it or use it against you, right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
fact that you said, because I almost cried when you said that, I'm afraid. First of all, I'm afraid, and whatever follows is huge too. But I'm afraid that I may lose my teaching position. I'm afraid that like all those things. That right there just made me want to come through the screen and just hug you. So many people are afraid of what others think, and that keeps us in a place of shame and guilt and all the other things because of what
It's
people think. Let me
it's
tell you
such a
something. When
prison.
I started talking, because I was diagnosed with PTSD, major depression disorder, a recurrent severe, many, all of that. I was like, well, why you just didn't throw it all together? Anyway, whatever.
Right,
Because
like
like,
I didn't know I had CPTSD
right,
and
exactly.
BPD. I'm
Yeah,
like, but this is that, and the CPSD is the age regression part. So when the
correct.
BPD triggers, the
Oh God,
CPTSD comes up, and then my
exactly,
wife sees me crying in the closet
exactly.
like a 6-year old, and she's like, "What are you doing? And I was like, I didn't want to hurt anybody.
Cool. Oh my God.
And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I don't know what I feel. And I don't know where to go to be safe. And I
Correct.
don't want anybody to perceive me because I'm passionately explaining myself and I'm this
Mhm,
man.
mhm,
And so I got to go in the closet so
mhm.
nobody sees me. But while I'm in the closet, I become that 7-year-old little boy sitting in the trailer in Robbins, by the propane heater
Mhm.
after my dad done beat me, after another day of being abused by, the 16-year-old. And you just sit there like, where can I be safe? And
Exactly.
so you just go inward and you just like, and what's messed up is you become this man and this strong man. I went into the Navy to be a Navy SEAL. I went into Taekwondo to be a gold Olympic, and none of those goals were so I can make my country proud. It
Yep.
was so I didn't have to, so I wouldn't have to be scared no more.
Mhm.
And here I
Yeah.
am, 50,
Mhm.
and my wife said to me, and I before we came on, I told you I'm coming out of being activated,
Mhm. For
and
sure.
we can get into what that looks like for me,
For
but
sure.
but I'm
Absolutely.
I'm coming out of it, and what activated me was so crazy was my wife has ADHD, right? And so people with ADHD, after they come out of their hyper focus, and it can last a little while, they're
Mhm.
exhausted.
Exhausted.
And so
Yeah.
my wife is exhausted, which I understand. I got 2 years of a psych doctorate. I can cognitively see all of this.
Yeah.
But while she's in the bedroom sleeping,
Mhm.
my emotional brain is feeling lonely.
Mhm.
And so while looking at my wife, I had to struggle with loneliness,
Mhm.
knowing what it is and can't do anything about it. That's borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
That's just one of the 9 traits.
Right. It's just like that's just a part of it.
That's just a little part. And it's like it's I'm still grappling with that this is a reality because it feels like the movie Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it feels like because there's
Yeah.
paranoia in it. Like there's a guy by the name of, I think his name is Dr. Forrest Fox, a board certified psychologist here in Texas,
Mhm.
and he calls this thing the family in the head.
Okay.
And because we suffer from paranoia too, which I didn't know until May of this year that the things that were happening were paranoia in my head.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm like, I have paranoia?
Yeah.
And so the
Yeah.
paranoia, um, I use Kendrick Lamar's song Peekaboo.
Mhm.
That's my safe word now. My wife would be like Peekaboo baby
Mhm.
because she'll do something like they'll sleep, or she'll make a statement like, hey, we talked about this and I decided this is what I'm going to do about this situation for me.
Yeah.
And my brain will hear, you don't trust my leadership.
Of course. Yep.
My brain will hear, you don't want me.
Mhm.
She's laying in the bed in the next room because she's exhausted.
Mhm.
Here I can surmise all of that clear as day,
Right.
but my emotional mind registers as that because of my childhood.
Of course.
And I think I cried for almost a week after the diagnosis like set in. It's like none of this is my fault, and that's why I speak out about this, because none of this is
Nope.
it's my responsibility to manage it.
Mhm.
But what's crazy is this was done to me.
To you. That's right. To
And
you.
if dads don't start looking at themselves and saying, hey, these behaviors I am exhibiting are not healthy for me or the people watching me, kids
Correct.
included.
Yep.
And I can do my kids, I have 3 kids that don't talk to me at all.
Mhm.
One that talks to me because he's been through some life now and he's like, Dad, I see you now.
Yeah.
But the 3 don't, and it's not their fault. They're adults, and it's not their fault they don't talk to me. it's my fault that they don't talk to me, because as an adult, these things were happening, and
Mhm.
I masked them in toxic masculinity, saying, "Well, I'm a man, and this is how a man acts, and they're just going to have to adapt to how I act." And the whole time, the symptoms, the symptomatic parts of borderline personality disorder are manifesting and imposing themselves on my kids.
Mhm.
And so today I have to grapple with, I affected how their upbringing was, and I have to, what my therapist says, I have to accept even though I don't agree.
Mhm. Correct.
And and people that, and when I explain this, people will say, "Well, I have all those feelings too.
Mhm.
I have those moments. I had that with my kid." And I think what they don't get about this disorder is that I have all of those feelings just like they have, but it's at 1,000 every single
Right.
time.
Right.
Every single time, it's at the most extreme it can be. Whereas as a person in a normal spectrum band will be like, "Man, that's jacked up, but I got to go to work today,"
Mhm.
and they can move on with their day. And I'm standing there like somebody just stabbed me in my heart.
Correct.
it's
That's correct.
it's and you go through life like people telling you you're being dramatic, and then you're fighting, not trying to be dramatic so you can fit in with them and be this tough man too.
Mhm.
And like my therapist said, this is the rest of your life. You can't avoid any feeling. You can't stop any trigger you will ever feel, ever. You can't. It's not. You could take some medicine and get a mood stabilizer. There's nothing you can do but learn to react faster
Mm.
for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
What do you do with that?
Mhm. Mhm.
React faster.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't want to live today, and I can't stop. Like, I felt that way up until about 10 o'clock yesterday, that I didn't want to live anymore.
Okay.
But I don't have a plan to die.
Yeah.
That's borderline personality disorder.
Yeah.
But if I'm triggered enough after I feel that way, that's what happened in 2018.
Mhm.
Is that I was in a marriage where the person couldn't, for their own, nothing against them, they couldn't see this. They knew something was wrong, but they couldn't see this. And so all those little triggers that you push down trying to be manly, that's what overwhelmed me. And by the time that morning came, my wife had went to work, and I calmly went and got my firearm, and I was like, you know what? And that's the other thing about borderline. It's the suicidal thing is not to get back at anybody.
Mhm.
It's we feel so worthless
Yeah.
that we're hurting everybody else, that we just and that we just don't want to hurt nobody anymore. And I said this on an interview with Phi Beta Sigma,
Mhm.
and I didn't realize when I was saying that at the time that that was a symptomatic expression of borderline personality disorder. Like all of this, it's. Somebody said, a psychologist says, it's the worst mental health diagnosis you can get, because there's no cure, and the best treatment you can get is
Yeah.
dialectical
DBT.
behavioral DBT, because you can't stop it.
Yeah.
It's incurable. And so for like the first week, I felt like I had cancer after I got this diagnosis. Like, this is um 70% of us have suicidal ideation. 10% of us take our lives.
Mhm.
Most of us don't make it past 28 years old, because we can't wrestle with the feelings. It's
Yeah.
just it's always overwhelming. It's all and Lynn, I tell you, I walk around the house now knowing what it is now,
Mhm.
and now seeing it, and it's like, dude, this is all day every day that in my head I have to deal with invasive intrusive thoughts, and I have to deal with uh, a sound not like PTSD where like a car accident, right? Like a
Mhm.
car accident, you get trauma from it, and you say, "I'll never want to get in a car
Mhm.
again." I have
Mhm.
claustrophobia because of when I coded on the operating room table, and they strapped me down, and I woke up after 3 days strapped
Yeah.
down. I have claustrophobia now, so I can say, "No, babe, I'm not getting in that elevator. It's a little too tight. It's a little
Mhm.
too warm."
Mhm.
If it
Mhm.
was cooler, I could do breathing exercises and I'd be fine. But I
Mhm.
can see that.
Yeah.
I can't see this.
Mhm.
I almost the other day I said to Niece, I almost wish I had schizophrenia
Mm.
because at least I could take medication
Yeah.
and go on with my life just taking medication. There's nothing to take for this. Like, and I got to go teach in July, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I got to manage those personalities and emotions. And it's like yesterday I told her, I was like, you have moments where you literally say in your head, "I'm exhausted and I don't want to do tomorrow."
Yeah.
And I said that yesterday. I was like, "Babe, I'm exhausted and I
Mhm.
it's taken everything into me
Mhm.
to do tomorrow."
Mhm.
I quit drinking um 2 months ago. May at the middle of May was the most severe one I've had.
Okay.
And for those listening, I wasn't having these when Nisi and I got together.
Mhm.
Like I had did that therapy for depression and anxiety. I had good management skills, and I had, and since that time I hadn't been in a relationship where I was vulnerable enough that these activations could happen deep enough for it to be symptomatic.
That's right.
And so when Nisi and I got together, we were, she was my soror first,
Mhm.
and we quickly became platonic great friends. And it's like, and in fact, I was still married when we were friends. And the day decided to tell my wife at the time that I had been going to therapy for a year because that marriage, this is my fifth marriage, and I was
Yeah.
scared to say that before because people would
Mhm.
judge me. But
Mhm.
if you understand BPD, you understand we love for real,
Yeah.
and then we do black and white thinking. We can get into that,
For
and then
sure.
we split. And when we split, and you don't come back from a split, you leave the relationship while you're still in it. For real, leave it. And so the marriage I was in before Nisi, I didn't know what splitting was at the time, but I was in therapy to leave that marriage a year before the marriage ended. So we became fast friends. And the day I decided that I talked to my therapist, and I was like, this person did it again, and my health was failing. I was internalizing. I didn't know it was BPD,
Yep.
internalizing, and I thought I had a stroke. The marriage was killing me, and so I called Nisi that day, and I was like, I'm gonna go home and tell her. And she's like, "You sure you're gonna end it?" And she was my support system for my marriage when we became friends.
Mhm.
And so in this journey of BPD, she was also the first one to see me split because this environment, our marriage, our relationship is so calm that I wasn't having depression symptoms.
Yeah.
I wasn't having anxiety symptoms. It was like there was nothing going on with me. And so our relationship was just, great. Differences of opinion was like, oh, well, if you feel this way, oh, well, let's talk about that. It's the healthy discourse and
Yeah.
all of that. And then the day I split, the most severe was about 2 months ago. And it was the day I quit drinking.
Mhm.
Um, she had, and I talk about it in the book to some extent. Her best friend is male. And we had the discussion about her going to their birthday party. And she was feeling a certain kind of way. And I said, well, we talk a lot about our feelings. And I said, hey, we've talked about it, and whatever you come to, if you want to go to this event, if you don't, I support you.
Yeah.
And so I came in the house. No, she came home from work, and she said, "Hey, I decided I'm gonna go," and I didn't even know it triggered me.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm feeling triggered, but I don't even know what's wrong. And
Yep.
what was wrong, what the trigger was rejection of my leader as the husband in the family.
Mhm.
But it had nothing to do with my wife.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, we had a bottle of wine. I was like, well, it's fine. It's cool. It's cool. And so I started drinking. And then I started asking her questions, why didn't you, and it was all about me. Why didn't
Mhm.
you ask
Mhm.
me?
Mhm.
Why didn't, why didn't? And so now I'm learning that those are some of the telltale signs that I've split. And what splitting means is that a person went from being my favorite person to now 100% the other direction.
Mhm.
Now they don't trust. At first, they trusted me explicitly, but
Mhm.
one word or one sentence, and now they don't trust me at all. It's an extreme thing.
Yeah.
And then the alcohol, it diminishes my ability to sense what my body is reacting to,
That's
so that
right.
I then can say, why am I feeling like this? What is my body reacting to? What emotion am I experiencing? And then move through that. And
Mhm.
so I couldn't do that day because I was drinking. And that night I told my wife, I was like, I don't see the point of me living anymore. And I was, and this had to be told to me because our short term memory, it just goes away because we're in flight or fight, freeze or fawn mode, and
Mhm.
nothing is sticking. So for those people watching, when your person comes out of it and you all had try to have a discussion, and
Mhm.
they say, I don't remember myself
Mhm.
saying that, they
Mhm.
really
They
don't.
really don't. Mhm.
They really don't.
Yeah.
And so I told my wife that that night that I felt like I was making her life miserable. I was like, I feel like and this is BPD, every decision I'm making for us is horrible. I'm not smart enough to lead this family.
Mhm.
And I just, I shouldn't even be here anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't. And I was saying these things. And I slept on the couch, and it doesn't get violent. There's before 2018, I
Mhm.
was the verbally aggressive one. I would yell to the top of my voice, leave me alone, and
Mhm.
effing this and
Mhm.
effing that. That's BPD too. I'm attacking because it's happening in privacy. It doesn't happen in the public.
Right.
And I'm yelling that to the person that I'm the most vulnerable to because
Mhm.
I'm afraid. And people are like, "How are you afraid? You're the one with the aggression." And like, no, we're the ones afraid.
Right.
And so that morning, um, I was like, I can't do another evening of feeling like I don't want to live. And so I went back to therapy.
Mhm.
And 5 minutes into therapy, he was like, "Has anybody ever told you? You ever? No." He said, "Have you ever heard of borderline personality disorder?"
Mhm.
And my whole face just went wet because when I was in the Navy at 23, that was what I was discharged for.
Yeah.
And so and that's how I was able to finish writing this memoir. It's like, yeah, I couldn't understand after I did those 2 years of intensive psychotherapy,
Mhm.
EP, all those exercises, and I got all these tools, and I'm teaching communication, I'm teaching trauma informed, and I
Mhm.
keep having those what they call I've learned is the term is emotional dysregulation and
Mhm.
then
Dysregulation. Yeah.
crashing out, and we use the term crashing out, and I'm like, why am I doing this?
Mhm.
I manage my depression. I take my medication.
Mhm.
I articulate my feelings. Guys call me weak and sensitive because I'm articulating feelings.
Mhm.
I was on the I'm still on it. Brandon Brown, the director on our Phi Beta Sigma Social Action Committee,
Mhm.
the Mental Health Committee. I'm still on the committee, but I don't even go to the meetings. I ghosted them. Another BPD thing.
Yeah.
My friends ghosted them.
Hmm.
Black and white thinking. Oh, you did this, so you're the enemy.
Correct.
So I came up with this analogy. This is borderline personality disorder to me. Are you ready?
I am.
It's like, because I was in the Navy, I use a Navy analogy.
Okay.
It's like being at the helm of a container ship in the ocean, a huge container ship. And you
Mm.
got thousands of containers on that ship. And I know that in those deep oceans, swells can get from 3 feet to 100 feet.
Okay.
If my ship, no matter the swell, size of the swell, drives perpendicular to the swells, I can cut through them. And even though I'm rocking, I can manage my direction.
Okay.
BPD is that container ship, except we have our hands on the wheel steering the ship, but there's an undercurrent. And that undercurrent grabs the keel, which is the bottom of the ship, and
Hmm.
it pushes it off course. And if we are not drinking, if we're doing the healthy things, we can catch those triggers, the undercurrent triggers, and we can
Hmm.
go, not
Hmm.
today,
Hmm.
not today, BPD. You're not. I'm triggered, but I'm not gonna become symptomatic today. You're not gonna. But every now and then, the undercurrent catches that keel and it turns that ship all the way sideways. And now, instead of being able to cut through the swells, you're listing really severely, and all the containers are flying off the ship,
Yeah.
and you can't do anything to stop it. That's an activation. I can't do anything to stop it.
Hmm.
Like I literally have to tell my wife, babe, I felt a big thump in my gut,
Hmm.
and it feels like you're wringing out a towel, and you wring out as like the Hulk is wringing out, and it just stays wrung.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
the knot. And then my chest, it feels like I'm putting on like I'm finna go on a hike in the military. I got on my pack, and it just weighs me down, and then it's like a band around my head just compresses my head.
Hmm.
And I'll be like,
Hmm.
but I'm walking around fine. You
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to tell. People looking at me like, look at that confident
Hmm.
professional man.
Hmm.
But and I had to tell my wife, hey babe, I'm activated. And so bringing
Right.
it back to the ship, that's me. I've realized I can't bring it back on course. And eventually I'm going to start listing and all the containers are going to start flying off the ship. And I have to wait until the water's calm to bring it back on course. And then all the relationships I jacked up, those
Hmm.
containers that flew off the ship, I got to go back and try to pull them out the water. And then some of those containers I can pull back up and fix and mend those relationships. And then some I just got to let go to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
And then I have to figure out how to turn my ship back around and just keep on going again. That's borderline personality disorder. And it's every single day.
That
There's no
analogy.
break. There's no break. There's when people and I understand why people become alcoholics. It's not. I heard a woman with BPD say it the other day. It's not the alcohol that we're chasing.
Yeah.
It's the escape to not feel for a little while.
Yeah, I feel that's right.
To not well not for me to not feel, to
Hmm.
not have to manage those decisions.
Yeah.
That's why we become alcoholics and drug addicts, because it's like it's not the dopamine hit that we're looking for.
Hmm.
It's so that we don't have to feel that extreme sense of loneliness,
Correct.
the emptying. Oh my God,
Correct.
I was sitting with my wife before I got on today, and we're doing our check-ins.
Hmm.
She's like, let's do a check-in because she has ADHD, and people who don't know, it's stereotyped so bad they don't know the symptoms, how they really ravish your personal life.
Hmm.
And if you're not with someone who understands that, that also ravishes relationships, right? So we're sitting and we're doing our feelings check-in, and I was like, it's crazy. You're sitting right next to me,
Hmm.
and I feel utterly alone in the world.
Hmm.
And you're sitting right next to me, telling me you love me.
Hmm.
And so I have to say to her, and I know here that you love me unconditionally, and you're right here, and you are supporting me. And I have to remind the family in the head that you're doing that so that they don't tell me you're trying to leave me because you haven't really engaged me in the last 48 hours because you've been in your hyper focused ADHD symptomatic phase.
That's right.
And so it consumes you until you do something else. And this is my life. Lynn, this is my life every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the irresponsible Charles wants to say, I wish I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I wish I could have gone on being, well, I'm not angry Charles anymore. So being the passive aggressive Charles,
Mm-hmm.
being the ghosting Charles,
Mm-hmm.
being the drinking because I'm so empty Charles, because hey, it must be this. Let me have some wine. I'll feel better.
Yeah.
And then the responsible Charles says, yeah, but then you wouldn't know what it was. You
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be able to say, hey babe, I'm activated. I don't want you to be on eggshells. I will let you know how I'm feeling as the days go by.
Right.
So he doesn't have to live as a victim in the house of my emotions. This is and this is living healthy.
Thank you
That's
for
that
including me. Sure.
this people will be like, man, you got to do all that. Man,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be in a relationship like that. You got
Mm-hmm.
to do all that. No, I
Mm-hmm.
like chicks would say, I want a 6 foot, dark skin or light skin, six figure,
Mm-hmm.
corporate,
Mm-hmm.
well articulated. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
want, and I don't want somebody that's all sensitive and then they get them and then they live with them and
Mm-hmm.
then they're divorced in 6 months because they didn't realize that alpha mindset that made them so successful
Right.
also caused them to have to alienate everybody in their lives because to focus on success they have to exclude.
Yeah.
So you have to either get with the program and like this or that's not the person for you.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be if you know how to do all this communication, healthy communication work that
Yeah.
you have to do every day. And it's
Every day.
exhausting. It's exhausting.
Every day, all day, every minute, every second. So first of all, there's comments. You're so powerful. Love this educational breakdown of BPD. Wow, you are amazing. So raw and so real. And this is the reason why you have to speak. This is also the reason why I did not interrupt you. Because the last time we were here, we were doing like questions back and forth. Everything that you needed to say, I didn't need to interrupt at all because someone
Yeah.
needs to hear this today, and whoever watches the replay needs to hear all of that. They need to know that they are that person, or they have been connected or is connected to that person. Like, what? I thought it could be just what you just explained.
Yeah. I told
And when
my
you
wife
say
and
you
I
talk
also
to Nisi, because I
I,
wanted to say this. When you say you talk to Nisi, about like your check-in, that's the thing I have to do with my husband. And he knows, like we've been married long enough for him to know. But he knows, because yours is peekaboo. My statement for him to say to me is, you're safe with me. And sometimes he says it and doesn't touch me. And sometimes
yeah.
he says it and he has to rub my shoulders because he knows it's like
I have to
she
you
wants
gotta
to touch
break me out of
today.
that
Come on.
thing.
Yeah. And so that's my thing. And then I look at him, I'm like, oh, yes, thank you. I am, yes,
From a
thank you.
from a man, especially a black man's perspective, um, that's why I never wanted anybody to know when I was 23 that I had this. I didn't know what it was. I just
Hmm.
knew I had a mental health diagnosis, and that was enough. I had no clue what BPD was.
Yeah.
And then, as the fear of having to do that for a man,
Hmm.
to tell my wife, honey, I need you to rub the back of my head. Now, for those that don't know, I was a I'm 6'2".
Hmm.
Now I'm a chiseled 190. My wife got me doing half marathons and shit, but
Hmm.
I'm a you know, when I was in the Navy in martial arts, I was an undefeated Taekwondo champion.
Mhm.
I knocked people out. I
Mhm.
went to the when I was in lived in Harvey, you know, right in those rough years when you could go into the gang, you don't. I was an enforcer. Like
Yeah.
I was the dude that you didn't pay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come get the money. I'm not gonna shoot nobody because I don't have to.
Mhm.
I was, you know, I'm the guy who went into the military. I enlisted in the Navy SEAL rating. I said, I walked into there, I was like, I want to be a Navy SEAL. And for those
Yeah.
that don't know what that is an elite Navy a military force that's like Green Berets. It's like sea,
Mhm.
earth, air, whatever you do, you know, we can fight, we can swim, we can shoot. I was like, I'm going to go in the Navy and be that so I can be the toughest so I never have to. Even now, I avoid fights because I'm scared to hit
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
Have that dude construction running bulldozers in the
Mhm.
dirt and piss and 12 hours in that big machine, 13 years, broke my back. I'm that
Mhm.
dude. And
Mhm.
I got to tell my wife,
Mhm.
babe, I'm feeling sad right now. I
Yeah.
don't know why. Because BPD, like we were saying, the trauma doesn't come up like an incident in time.
Mhm.
It comes up as an undefined experience we've had, and we can't even identify when it happened,
Yeah.
what happened. The emotion just takes over your frontal lobe. Even I learned that they when they do actual scans of people with this diagnosis, our
Mhm.
frontal lobe is less lit up, and so when we're activated, it just overwhelms, and we have no reason, no logic, but we think we do.
Mhm.
And if you are a sort, I know I'm all over the place. I'm just vomiting all this stuff
Not
up
over
because
the place.
I'm just learning it. But like if you are a person like me that all those years of construction and then you
Mhm.
go to undergrad and you graduate with honors and you do grad school, you graduate honors, and then you like do one doctorate after the other, and you're so bored in the track that you pick up another doctorate. This doctorate ain't gonna give me let me do another doctorate.
Mhm.
And you're like killing it.
Mhm.
And that person is running on emotion and no control.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
It is.
And so I know there's a lot of me's out there, and that's another reason I wanted to do this and
Yeah.
let people see this is because I'm in my emotional brain now.
Mhm.
People like if you're watching me right now and you think you're hearing an academic talk and me talking about my degrees and stuff, you're not.
Mhm.
This is all emotion. This is all emotion right now.
Yeah. Definitely. And I'm glad you're sharing that. Simply because, like, when I work with my clients, we talk about that. We talk about the emotional, the rational, the wise mind, all that
Yeah,
in DBT, because it is. I said, okay, so what we'll do, let's look at what's emotional, let's look at what's factual, because of course a lot of it is run in emotion. Our actions and emotion. It's like, all right, but what's the logic part? And they're like, I'm not even thinking about that. I know, but what's the
I
logic part?
know.
So I
Yeah,
definitely, like, I really, I get it. I'm so glad you were talking about this. I do want you to talk about the title of your book launch, where people can find you, all these things. So the title of
sure,
your book
sure.
is
So the title of it, and this is the not for resale copy. This is
Mhm.
my rough draft, but the title of it is Silence Split Open. It's a memoir of trauma, identity, and a fight to be seen.
Mhm.
And I launched it in July on my wife's birthday for just for a reason, just so everybody knows. This is the first calm relationship I've ever been in where I could identify the difference between um, what I thought was just PTSD and borderline personality disorder. And so this book being launched on July 12th um, is not a biography. This is not my life story. What I decided to do, it's a memoir that I wrote from in the middle, and it's just telling parts of my life so people and how borderline personality disorder shows up. So And in the back there's a discussion guide for people after they read it. If you want to have a discussion about this, because there's 9 different traits, and that's why it's so hard to diagnose. And most therapists won't treat it. Just so most therapists will not treat this because it's so difficult. In fact,
Correct.
my therapist is a veteran who's who doesn't let you just sit there and talk about your life. He
Mm-hmm.
says, "What was the episode?
Mm-hmm.
Here's a DPT exercise."
Mm-hmm.
So that's how this book is written. It gives you my story, but all the things in it that says, "Hey, this was BPD,
Mm-hmm.
and this is how I could work through that." There's a glossary of terms and everything. September 20th at the Lockwood Dallas Public Library, we're having the official release event in which, I'll read excerpts, but they're not going to get what they got on your show. They're not going to get this at that event. They're going to get Dr. Myrna Dartson, who is an acclaimed clinical psychologist, board certified clinical psychologist here in Dallas, also an AKA one of your sisters.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have Najee Graves, one of my Phi Beta Sigma frat brothers from Morehouse. He is a licensed professional counselor, is going to be there, and he gives attention to adolescent and young adult Black men. That's who he primarily sees. We're gonna have Dr. A.L. Smith on the panel too. She is not only a nurse anesthetist and a AKA. You hear a lot of Greek. That's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But she is also a director of movies and an acclaimed author herself, that she addresses issues such as mental health issues that weren't seen in the criminal system,
Mm-hmm.
and which is why a lot of our people of color, Black men especially, Black and brown, are incarcerated in America.
Mm-hmm.
And so she shines a lot of light on that. In fact, if you go to Prime Video, He Never Left is a documentary that she produced. I was fortunate enough to be in it as a historical expert, but it shines a light on mental health illness, how it's not seen, especially in Black men, as we're seen as the aggressive type of person in society. And then last but not least, we'll have attorney Calvin Johnson, who is a criminal defense attorney who can speaks to how individuals, especially young Black males, are not seen, the mental health illness is not seen, and they're criminalized instead, and how he fights as a criminal defense attorney to protect a lot of the Black youth from getting into the system in the first place. So that's going to happen September 20th um, at the Dallas Public Library at 11 a.m. You can
Mm-hmm.
go to Eventbrite and find the tickets. You can go to Amazon, Silent Split Open. In fact, you can pre-order the book on Kindle now, and it's only $8.99. I'm not making money. Again, I don't do
Mm-hmm.
mental health advocacy to make money. Even this event on September 20th is free.
Mm-hmm.
There's no cost. In fact, the first 10 people that register and attend get a book for free. So the book is only $10.30. So
Mm-hmm.
this is for information. This is
Mm-hmm.
for the brothers who can't hear a therapist speak in therapist language. Be
Right.
like, that's not resonating with me. Well, first what you must do, that don't resonate with us.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
got to keep it 100 all the time, and that's what this is.
Every
That's what
time.
this event's going to be. Anybody that starts to shift into that academic psych language, like, no, you're losing the people who need to hear this. We
Correct.
speak like this. I don't
Correct.
say this. I say this. I don't say roof of a house. I say roof, and people think I'm barking.
uh-huh.
I say pop, not soda. So
Yeah.
I'm finna go to the crib. This is the language that we speak in. It's not Ebonics. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, there's a professor I forgot the university, Columbia University, who said that this is not Ebonics. This is how we speak the King's English, a
Mm-hmm.
language that's not ours in the
It's
first
ours
place.
anyway.
So
Yep.
I'm not speaking the academic language to reach my people. I'm speaking our language to reach our people, especially the brothers, because this right here, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to see no more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see that no more.
Yeah.
This is preventable.
Mm-hmm.
By the grace of God, I am still here. The firearm misfired. and I'm here. And so now that I know that I have borderline personality disorder and
Mhm.
suicidal ideation is a part of my everyday life. I
Mhm.
just got to work harder so I can stay here. And that's what the brothers got to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this comment, it says, this has been a beautiful, eye-opening, deeply touching podcast. Thank you, Arthur Charles Harper, for your strength and your vulnerability. The world needs you. Your voice is being heard.
Mm.
Well,
My next activation, I'm gonna tell my wife that that listener said that, and my next activation where I need to hear that, I'm gonna ask my wife to remind me that somebody I didn't know, I don't see these comments, said
mhm,
that.
mhm. Yeah, that's why I
Somebody I
read
didn't
it.
know.
I know you didn't see it. So this is the thing. I'm definitely going to be there on the 20th. I don't know. I may have to come by myself on this one,
I want
but
to get Nami there too. I want to get. I want, so I sent some and I hope some of the representatives hear this. I'm sending out communications to all these agencies. Man,
mhm,
bring your 988 guides.
mhm,
Bring your contact us. People have no idea when I do stuff like this.
mhm,
The DMs I get afterwards from
mhm.
mostly black men and brown men that say, "Hey, bro, I just don't know where to start."
Yeah.
And so I want all these organizations to bring all their stuff. This I worked for My Health, My Resources of Tarrant County. I don't know if you knew that for
Mm,
almost 2 years as a DEI manager, and that's what I helped with was the inclusion part. How do we go out to the community and help people who don't have a degree in psychology to know that there's a path for them to get to help. They don't speak in that. I didn't. We don't speak that language.
mhm.
I just know I'm feeling like this.
Correct.
I'm not good. I
Mhm,
can't tell my wife I'm not good because she's gonna think I'm weak. I can't
mhm,
let my kids see I'm not good. Can't see my boss here I'm not good because I won't have
mhm,
a job. I'm
mhm,
trapped. And so
mhm.
when you start saying, hey, seems like you're having emotional dysregulation as a byproduct of,
Right.
I didn't hear that.
Uh-huh.
In fact, I didn't hear it until I went to college and heard it there. And then when the therapist said it, then I could actually hear those words. But before then, I can't hear that stuff.
That's right. That's right. And so many people are going to be able to hear you.
Good. Get
So many people, and
good.
this is what I mean. The fear, the when you said I'm afraid, all of that, you can still be afraid. You can still have fear and do it afraid. Do it scared. Do it with all of that because your voice needs to be heard. There's only certain people that are going to listen to your voice. There's only certain
Yeah.
people that's
Yeah.
only going to hear Charles. There's only certain people they're going to be like, oh, that's my friend. Like you have to speak. Remove the pressure, remove that. Just know that you are powerful. Like there is purpose in your voice because you are purpose. We have our own people. Like my people need to hear me. So
Yeah.
I need to
Yeah.
speak. Your people need to hear you. So you need to speak. It's not like all that is going to hear. You said no.
I you
The
know,
assignment that you are on, there are people attached to your assignment. And if you do not speak,
yeah.
and if you do not continue to talk, they'll never hear you, they'll never find you. So that is the reason why you have to speak.
And I tell you, like I said, these are real fears. I'm having these fears. When I was creating this event, that's a fear.
Mhm,
And what I had to realize, and this is what helps me, and what helps other people is what helps them
mhm,
is one of my accosters, the predators, was a priest when I was 11, and I was going through Catholicism, to and
mhm,
and so my relationship with God was very fractured, and recently, and my wife,
mhm,
and her story, and she's
mhm,
Haitian, and Haitians are very Christian,
mhm,
very Christian.
mhm,
And so my wife, one of the charges her dad gave me when we got married was to make sure that she got back to church. And so, and so that I've been efforting that and facing a fear when we're talking about fear. And so we ended up going to one community church in Plano,
Mhm.
Texas here. And I've gone to church before, but I don't feel anything there. And
Yeah.
so we went to church. My hands were clammy. I couldn't
Mhm.
even stay the whole service because now I'm in this different place in my life, and my wife is I'm trying to support my wife in her practicing her faith, and I was still seeing myself as Christian. And I
Mhm.
tell you, I let back go after a while and and found my faith in God again.
Mhm.
And I asked God to let His will just flow through me,
Mhm.
and whatever consequence of His will flowing through me
Mhm.
is His will and not my mortal way of looking at things.
Yeah.
So I would say that, for those that have a fear of sharing, that's what the social construct wants you to have, because that's control. That's control. If I have to move, and having BPD, I understand how I've been a chameleon in my entire life. I've had to be what everybody else needs me to be in order for my feeling of abandonment to not come up.
Mhm.
So I understand being what everybody else needs to be to 1,000th. I understand that. And if you let that impact your purpose never comes out. And so I
That's
just want to tell you that that's that's where that courage comes from. It comes from my faith, not me.
yeah. I get it. I
Not me.
definitely get it. I definitely get it. So, any last words, sir? Um,
um, any last words?
yeah.
I'll say this and leave it there. Um, I've come to learn that the beauty really found in life is not in the hustle for money, is not in the attainment of things, people, or even goals. For me, that's not even the journey of life. That's not the beauty of life. The beauty of life is how we get to um, learn ourselves in this ongoing movement of existence here. And whatever your faith is, whatever you use to guide you, your morality and ethical compass, that's fine. But as you navigate through this thing, the learning comes through all the things you think you are erroring in. They're not errors. They're just how you moved in this construct. And then you just have to look at what it didn't allow you to do and say, man, is that healthy? Is that good? And if you feel like it's not, then you just move a different way. And then you just go. And then you run into something again, you analyze, you learn again, and then you move a different direction. And those little things, those little moments of conflict are no longer for me negative. They're now positive for me to learn about me. And it has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with you. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty.
That is.
That's the dopamine hit.
Yeah. Whew, this has been good. I didn't need to use my Kleenex. I'm so excited. The ashwagandha
Good,
kicked in, but
good.
yeah, this has been so good. Thank you so much. Just
Hey,
thank
Lynn,
you.
whenever you need me, sister, you know I'm your brother. You got me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do. But I'm gonna
That's
take
good.
you down. Don't leave because I want to talk to you. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Everyone, this has been yet another fabulous, amazing episode for Men Cry in the Car. And as always, men, I see you, I hear you, and I support you. Until next time.